Hello, sisters. Hello. How are you doing today? Um, you missed the reading tossstones. Um, it was interesting. Up until the last page, I was like, this is my favorite essay in the whole book. And then she starts talking about choice and like choosing to be a lesbian and how this like is an exercise of like power. Um, and I'm like, fair enough, because what she says power is like the saying no to men. So I guess choosing to be a lesbian is like the ultimate saying no to men. But like, I don't know. Anyway, let's go through it like one thing at a time. Okay. Also, we have this much of the book left. We have one essay left. You guys excited to finish the essay to finish this book on Friday so we can start the next book? I'm excited. Okie dokie. Okay, actually, I'm going to change my shirt and put on a sweater. 1 second. Mama. Like, both of the cats are on my bed, but like kitty corner. OMG, they're cats and they're kitty corner to each other. What's the next book? I thought I try and alternate. Well, my plan now is to try alternating history and theory. So this book is in the theory category for me. This is like in the history category for me. It's called Eating Fire: My Life as a Lesbian Avenger by Kelly Cogswell. Um so yeah, but it's kind of weird. It's like 4 giant chapters and I'm not sure how I'm going to be reading it, but I'm very excited to be reading it for you guys. Uh what's the other kitty's name? This one? This one. Her name is Squeaky. Do you want to see why she's named Squeaky? Please hold. Never mind. I don't want to bother her. But literally every single time you pick her up, she's like, "Eh, eh," like it's like the squeak noise. I don't know how to. I can't really do the noise, but it's like that. Oh, you love my hair. I'm very dissatisfied with my hair, to be honest with you. Like I'm at a point where what I have done, like I bleached the whole thing yesterday, obviously, and what I have done is unundoable. It's permanent. So I think I might just like leave it like this for a week and then buzz my head or something because I can't do this. I just called my dog Momo and he wouldn't come. Well, Momo doesn't respond to her name, but isn't that kind of normal for a cat? Okay, 1 second. Why don't you meow for me, Momo? You yawn at me? This is kind of rude now. Okay, first things first, before I actually get going through the essay, what time is it? It is 2? I don't need to leave here till 5. I have 3 hours. Okay, I'm good. Mary asks what I don't like about the color. It's not, well, it's like every aspect of what's going on. So the first problem is that I bleached, I think that the hair I currently have that I haven't chopped off, obviously, the hair I currently have, I think has been bleached 4 times. So the first problem is like this weird shading. Like you can't really see it on the camera, but the whole back of my hair, it's like very very green. Like when I bleached it, it turned green, and it's like it's been bleached too many times, right? Um, and then like the front, like I purposely bleached these last because I didn't want them to turn like ultra white while this was like not that white. But like they're so dark the sides. Look how dark the sides are compared to like this, right? And if I just bleach it again, it's just gonna like turn green now. Like you can't just bleach it indefinitely. Um, you need a purple toner. No, but this is the thing. Okay, so I thought I bought a hair dye, and then when I was putting it in, I was like, this doesn't feel like hair dye, and like I didn't even. It turns out I didn't even need to use glove. Like it wasn't hair dye. This is like a fucking blue toner, which was like what? And the company that makes it also sells toner to use after you put the toner. I'm like, what? I don't know. So, yeah. I've now used like blue toner on my hair, and like that's whatever. But like my goal was to buy like a really Do you have the brand Ion? Yeah, I use the Ion everything for my hair. There's a leave-in coloring thing. Oh, it's like after get the purple. Dude, I literally just left purple though. Yesterday my hair was purple and today it's blue. The whole point of this was to go blue. um it was supposed to be like maybe more like this blue, like a royal blue. Like it was supposed to be like royal blue. Um I don't remember it was called like Loyal Blue or something, the name of the bottle I picked up. So I was like, this should be good. Then I asked the lady, I went to Sally Beauty Supply. I don't know where you live if you have that. I think it's in the US, right? It's like one of those beauty supply outlet places where it's why I buy my Ion and shit. Get Arctic Fox. Exactly. So I picked up the Arctic Fox and I picked up the Strawberry Leopard and I went up to the cash and I asked the lady, what's the difference? Like, what do you recommend? Because I love Arctic Fox. I was like, I never tried the colors from Strawberry Leopard. And she was like, "Oh, they're basically the same thing." They are not the same thing. One is like it's not even a dye. Like Arctic Fox to me is like a stain. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the difference between the lipsticks, like a lipstick and a lip stain. Like there's a big difference, right? Like that's the difference to me between Arctic Fox and other hair dyes. Anyway, I put down the Arctic Fox and spent 22 fucking dollars on this Strawberry Leopard fucking bullshit. She didn't know shit. Yeah. Like I literally um you have experience. Like, dude, I've been dyeing my hair for 10 years. No offense, but I know what I'm doing. I'm just like, when I had my whole hair like this length, I could bleach it myself and it would turn out even. Now, this is the first time in like, since I think the summer that I was 16, I grew up my hair a bit. But even then, it was like just past my shoulders. This is the longest I've had my hair in like over a decade. And I'm like, it's really like weird having long hair. Um, and when I had longer hair and I bleached it, my sister bleached it for me. Like, it's the bleaching that's the problem. The color and the keeping the color in and all that is not a problem. It's like even like yesterday, I was thinking of going to a hair salon to get it bleached, but then I was like, it's so expensive. Like, just go to Sally and spend like I have like huge bottle of whatever the chemicals that you mix. Like, I just went to get the powder because I already had the liquid, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And the stuff that I have at the developer I have is really strong, because like my roommate's hair is black, but like maybe that's why my hair is green now. The developer was too strong. I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing is just a mess now. I feel like thank you. I feel like I might like and actually okay. What level was it? Level 20? No, it was level 30. Because my roommate, the first time we tried to bleach her hair, we used 20 and it literally did nothing. Her hair was like slightly orange-ish, but it didn't do anything. Um, the number has to do with how fast it works. Yeah, but you have dark hair. I do not have dark hair. I have very light hair. I have like light brown hair. It's almost like reddish. Yeah. Anyway, but I don't know. It's like a kind of sinkhole situation, I feel. Um, then the 30 worked too fast. But the reason I left it in yeah, I wasn't ever gonna buy 40 because my hair is pretty light to begin with. The reason I left it in that long is like the front was still kind of brown. Like it's still kind of brown looking. I don't know if you can tell, but the front, like the sides look brown. So I was like, and I can't see the back. So I was like, I'll just leave it in. Like I left it in for the max time on the pack, whatever. But like also, yesterday I was supposed to have a haircut, and the reason I ended up bleaching and dyeing my hair yesterday was because my haircut got canceled. So I had like time in the middle of the day to bleach my hair. Then I went to my second job with like this random white, brown, orange hair. Like the back was like green. There was like reddish parts, and then there was like white, and then there was like random streaks of purple where the bleach didn't touch. And I went to work like that. And then I came home and put the stuff in, and oh my god, even that, when I put the toner in, like usually with my hair dye, like I use Arctic Fox. Usually it's like really strong. The way I do it is I put it in, I put on a shower cap, and I leave it in for like at least 3 hours. That's my standard. Like sometimes as much as 6 hours if like if I do it early in the morning on a weekend or something. And And I was doing that, and I was like, there was like water running down my face, and I was like, is the hair dye like disintegrating? And that's when I googled like what is in strawberry leopard, and they were like, yeah, this is like a conditioner based toner. And I was like, so there's no reason to leave it in for more than like 10 minutes. It's not going to make any difference. You can use a 10 developer on the side. Is that the thing to do now? Because I'm like scared. I don't want to like make it worse. I feel like at this point, my option is to like go to a professional colorist and be like, please fix it for me. But I'm not dropping like $200 at a hair salon, you know? Yeah, so what I'm thinking is to just go and get like a really dark blue. Go to hair cuttery. What's hair cuttery? Is that a website? Yeah, what I'm thinking is just to get like Arctic Fox has this color called Poseidon, which is like I literally had it in my hand yesterday when I picked up the two colors and I asked the lady. Like also I kind of want to go to Sally and be like, I literally asked you guys if this is the same thing and you said yes. And when I went home it did this. It's not the fucking same thing, is it? Like I didn't use all of the stuff I bought yesterday. I kind of want to like get it and go to the store and be like, "Look, this is what I bought, and you told me it's the same, and it's literally not the same." I don't know. Poseidon is a great shade, right? I thought so. Like, the last time I had blue hair was in grade 12 when I went to prom. It was more like teal, though. It was like a similar to this, but more greenish. Yeah. At the very least, I want the lady who told me that to know that so she doesn't tell anybody else. Like, I am really not the person to go demanding anything from anyone. Like, I've been in customer service so long, I never wanna, like, get someone in trouble or, like, make them have to, like, ask their manager for, like, an override code or like, I never wanna put people in that position, but, like, I'm pissed off actually because especially after reading this book where it should like, I just read a whole essay about anger, like, a few days ago, and it's like, why am I angry? Because I went on there, asked a question of somebody who should know the answer, and then they were incompetent, and the result is, like anyway. Do it nicely. No, I will. Um, Also the last time I went there, I was, like, looking for, like, a color conditioner. Like, this is the second time this has happened to me at Sally. I literally went in, I went to the Ion section. I was like, "This is the shampoo I have, okay? My conditioner ran out. Is this the right conditioner?" And they were like, "Yep." And it was like a hair mask. Like, it wasn't even a conditioner. Like, I bought, like, a huge, huge, like, whatever, like, 4-liter bottle of, like, a hair mask. I was like, "Who would buy this other than a hair salon? Like, it's a lot. Why like" and I had to, like, exchange it, and I went anyway. No, I know purple will dye over it, but the whole point of this was to not have purple. I've had purple hair for, like, 9 months or something. Anyway, don't use Ion shampoo and conditioner. They got some bad shit on it in it. What bad shit? I think I switched to the Ion conditioner, the Chromatic Extend one, and that one keeps the color in really well. Like, I would say it keeps the color in for more than twice as long as the other like hair dye conditioners I've used in the past. I like the Ion shampoo and conditioner. It works really well for me. Anyway, enough about my hair. Okay. I'm just like TBH, you're gonna show up to a stream and I'm gonna have buzzed my head off because I can't stand this anymore. And like I've buzzed my head to like the skin multiple times. Like I might just do that. Yeah, that's what I bought. That's why I was like, I want to buy like conditioner for like everyday washing my hair. And they were like, here, buy this $20 like gigantic or whatever amount, this huge thing of like leave-in conditioners. And I was like, oh, okay, bye, Lisa. Well, thanks for popping in. uh well, look, I used it like twice and then I brought the bottle back and was like, whatever. I'm a pro, wish I could fix the color. Where do you live? I'm willing to drive several hours. Okay. We're probably gonna be like you live in like Texas or some shit. I actually used to be friends with a rad femme ish colorist in Toronto, but then my Instagram got banned and I don't remember what her name was. So you're in Europe. Okay, that's a bit of a far drive for me. Okay. So I am going to cover the thing. I know it looks good on camera, but like to me, okay, I'll say like a few more things about my hair. To me, the main issue I have with my hair is that like when I look at it, I know what technically has been done incorrectly, and that's why it looks this way. Like when somebody else looks at it, they're like, "Oh, there's like shading, like it's ombre or whatever." And I'm like, "No, it's like it's done incorrectly. It's not, Anyway, okay, okay. I'm gonna cover the camera with something. I mean, not the camera, the live chat. How about napkins? I'm a genius. Okay, yeah, okay. So this essay was so interesting, wasn't it? There was some stuff in here that was like reaffirming thoughts and concepts I already had. There was other stuff in here that was like completely new to me. Um, yeah, okay. So, something I've talked about in the last recent times, recently, has been this like homophobic concept. Well, actually, okay. One of the things that I realized while reading the essay was the homophobia experienced by women. Like, I don't know, it's because I'm reading these essays. If you don't respect women as women in the first place, then the like lesbophobia they experience is fundamentally different from the homophobia that men experience because they had personhood to begin with, right? Like to to be phobic towards a gay man is to dehumanize him, right? To be phobic towards a lesbian, she's already dehumanized, right? So they're fundamentally different. And I think it's not a good thing when I use the word homophobia to apply both to men and women as if they're in the same situation. Like the mechanics of it is completely different, right? And like that kind of thing, like erasing difference, contributes to the erasure of females' unique oppression, right? So, yeah, I just realized that while I was reading. I'm gonna try to remind myself instead of saying like, "Oh, I want to meet up with people," and correct myself, "Oh, I mean women." Instead of trying to say homophobia, everything about women, lesbians, I'll specifically use lesbophobia. Okay. So, yeah, she talks about how society, people seem to think feminists and gay rights should be like BFFs because, gay men are basically women and women support each other. Like, that's basically like the first 2 pages of the essay. Um, also, I've never heard of the Ku Klux Klan doing anything specifically to do with homosexuality. Obviously, it doesn't surprise me, right? But I don't know anything about that. So when she mentioned it, I was like, I need to Google this. Um, so this missionary sexuality that he's bringing up, I think what she's talking about, like it's conjecture because she doesn't really explain it, or does she? I don't think she does. Here, all of us deviants suffer from the fact that the dominant culture is, at least publicly, intolerant of deviations from what might be called quote unquote missionary sexuality. Sexuality organized around male dominant, female subordinate genital intercourse. So it's not necessarily for the purpose of pregnancy, it's just for the purpose of like males reaffirming their metaphysical position in society. Um okay. So I'm glad I read this because it actually disproves the whole thing I was about to say. At least publicly intolerant of deviations from what might be called missionary sex. So, when I first read this, or when I read the term being mentioned again, my thought was, is she taking the sex positive position that people who participate in like abnormal sexual practices are like repressed or whatever? She's not, so that's good. She's just saying like publicly men need to act like they need to be men all the time, even if privately their sexual practices are not dominating at all times. Okay. So she talks about here how, you know, society views us similarly, because they view us as women who are not womanly, men who are not masculine. And so they group us together. And so she says, because of this, legally, there's been a lot of reason to work together. But this is always short lived on the part of lesbians. So she brings up the idea that people are always like, oh, like, why is there a rift? Like, well, why don't the lesbians get along with the gay men? And they come at it with the assumption like things must have been good because like you on a fundamental level you're the same, so you must support each other. So something must have changed it so it went bad. And she's like, I don't think that was ever the case. I think we were so fundamentally different from the outset that we've always been like this. And the idea that we all get along, this part I'm kind of like following off of what she said, that she doesn't she this is not in the essay. So I think what she's kind of getting at is that like the idea that we all get along is like part of male domination, right? Like dominating the narrative that lesbians are just a subset of gay men, that what the men need is, oh, the women can handle that too, that's all they need. This kind of idea. Okay. Um she talks about how, so missionary sexuality, right, is, as far as she defines it and as far as I understand it, sexuality that is specific, sexual behaviors that are specifically for the purpose of dominating and like being a dominant, subduing women, right? So anybody engaging in same-sex acts is not doing this, obviously. Um, like, okay, listen to this. Because of this cultural reality, the worlds of what the clinicians would call quote unquote homosexual women and men are very different. We deviate from very different norms. Our deviations are situated very differently in the male supremacist worldview and political structure. We are not objects of the same phobias and loathings. If some of us feel some threads of sympathy connecting us and therefore would want to be friends with each other's causes, the first thing we should do is seek a just understanding of what our differences of the differences that separate us. Okay, whatever. But like she's basically saying like we are so different. Not basically. She's literally saying we're so different. The only way we can support each other or even think about supporting each other is supporting each other based on our fundamental differences. This is like a very common theme throughout the book, right? Men, how do they respect women? Not by treating women like men, but by treating like women and respecting them on the basis that they're women, right? The race essay was the same thing. She's like, don't assume that what you are is what a person is and just stick that onto everyone around you. She's like, we need to recognize and respect and understand differences. Like, we need to recognize and understand differences on the as the basis of respect before we can get anywhere else. Okay. Um so basically the whole point of this essay is her saying, I look at the male gay rights movement, and when I'm analyzing it, a lot of their aims and values and goals fit perfectly into male supremacy. They're not at odds with male supremacy in most ways. Um, and like that's freaking very interesting to me. I've often thought similar things, but not to such an explicit and like to such an explicit extent. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly read you the list of the 7 ways, the 7 things. So, among the most fundamental of those principles and values are the following, the principles and values which lend themselves to male supremacy. 1, the presumption of male citizenship. So, I'm going to go through the essay still, but I'm just going to quickly be like, so the male citizenship is like, men have personhood, gay men, even if they're like degraded men, right? Depending on or super men, depending on how you're looking at it. Either way, they're in the category man, so they have like implied personhood. Worship of the penis. What needs to be said about this? Okay, male homoeroticism or man loving. So this is like the concept, which again, definitely I've thought and talked about this before. The concept that males see other males as people, and it's only somebody that you respect and see as a full person that you can like have a genuinely deep, intimate relationship with, right? So the idea that straight men having man-man, intimate, strong relationships, and I don't mean intimate in a sexual way, right? Um, this is like a fundamental behavior that expresses loyalty and is obviously just like an outcome that would be expected of this kind of socialization, right? Um, and that basically straight men do that, and gay men take it to the next level. So in that way, they're like super phallists or phallocentrics or whatever. No, phallocratics. Okay. Um, contempt for women or women hating. Yeah, so this one she talks about like, overt contempt that gay men have who think that by saying like, women's bodies are disgusting, that this is just expressing their homosexuality. And she brings up, but a man saying that in a male centric society is completely different than a woman saying the same thing about a man in a male centric society, right? um oh, and then she talks about she doesn't even use the word drag. Did you see that? She used the term impersonating a woman, or like being, she says something affinity with the womanly or something. Um, and that she views this as an essential mockery and disrespect, actually. Um, which I have like heard that before, but I'd never seen someone like expand on it. So that was like really interesting reading, at least. Um, compulsory male heterosexuality. So this again is like the idea that, you know, gay men, they can do what they want. They can have sex with other men as long as they're still dominating women, right? And so also we need to keep in mind the year she wrote this. What did the note say at the beginning? Is this 1981? 1981. Okay. Um right. So that there's all of these men who would take part in the gay rights movement who either have wives or had and abandoned, right, their wives and children. And so they're like, we paid our dues. We did the thing that the heterosexual society wants us to do. But also, like, she's kind of, I don't know, is interesting. We'll get more into it when we get to that section. And then 6, the presumption of general phallic access. So this, she says, is the one area in which, despite the core principle of it being pro-phallist in its mindset, the actual execution of it is threatening to straight male supremacy. So she is like, it's like a proof of male supremacy, but it's the one that does not fully conform or support the straight male supremacy. Okay. Okay. So like listen to this. This like I don't know, just like this essay was really refreshing and like just so many new things, okay? As one explores the meaning of these principles and values, gay and straight male cultures begin to look so alike that it becomes something of a puzzle why straight men do not recognize their gay brothers, as they certainly do not, much to the physical and psychological expanse of the latter. So she's kind of being like, okay, when in the 70s, when GLF, the Gay Liberation Front, was doing their thing, they had like a breakout group or like a project group or something. I don't remember the exact word for it, but it was based on like the way communist groups organized themselves. So there was like a group of women, the lesbians, who called themselves the Radical Dykes, and they wrote an essay whose name I forgot. Maybe it wasn't even an essay; it was like a pamphlet or something that they published and handed out. And in that, they talk about how they view straight women as traitors, and their analogy is that you can't fight for the Germans and say like, "Yeah, I support Germany," and then go home to your French wife and sleep in France every night because they're like you're playing both sides of it. So if you flip it, and now you're thinking about male supremacy, right? Should it not be the case that gay men are viewed as like the ultimate male supremacists? Because their loyalties at all times are to men. Like, I guess you could view it in a different way that straight men perform more domination over women, and through that, they're like warriors for patriarchy more than gay men would be. But like when it comes to like commitment to men and like centering your life around men, obviously gay men have the straight men beat, right? I don't know. It was just very interesting reading. Okay. So the first part, the male citizenship. She talks about how it's similar to what she was saying in the essay about race. How straight women, sorry, in the race essay, she talks about how white women know that they are less than men in society, right? And so they view um they kind of want to be given like implied membership to the straight white men category, white women. And why? Because the people who are above them are the white men, right? And she talks about how this is like the wrong, first of all, it's like a failing position to be in. And how this is an act of like punching down, basically. Okay. But like more philosophically termed. So here she says the same thing. She's like, the gay men, I mean, not the same thing, but it's kind of, I don't know if I'm articulating myself well, what I'm trying. Here is a similar concept. The gay men need to punch down to be like men, to be on top. Who are the women around for the gay men to punch down on? The lesbians. Like, if you need to be in relation to something lesser to look like you're more, then it's a necessity to have women around, right? Um, and she argues or mentions that she views this as what the male gay rights movement does to lesbians. Um, oh my god, this. So she is like, so gay men are treated in society generally as emasculated men, right? And so this is obviously like degrading to them because they're not living up to like the best they could be in male supremacist perspective, right? So she is like, since the constituency of the male gay rights movement is very overtly and definitively classified and degraded as quote unquote womanish or quote unquote effeminate, it might seem that a logical and proud gay political strategy could be to demand citizenship as quote unquote women, the strategy of challenging the presumption of male citizenship. Some individual gay men lean towards this and thus to political kinship with women, but the gay rights movement generally has taken the course of claiming the manhood of its constituents, supposing that the presumption of gay men's rights will follow upon acknowledgement of this. Like, there's so many levels going of things going on in those couple sentences there. So I think this paragraph, is written from the mindset of men who don't understand that women have less personhood, right? So to them, this is my interpretation of what she's saying. To them, being a conforming woman gains you more respect and personhood than being an emasculated man. And she's like, if you look at it that way, it's very reasonable for them to say, well, the easiest route, the simplest route to respect and personhood is to categorize us as women. Now, when she says women here, she doesn't mean sex change. She means in like the relation to society, right? So, um, she says some men, and when I'm saying in relation to society, I mean where they fit into and how they contribute to power dynamics. I think that's what she's trying to say, right? And she says, some gay men, they get this, they're on this level, and you would assume that this means they have a kinship for women. Um, but her point is that even if they're like betraying patriarchy because they're still men, they're still part of the problem, basically. I think is what she's getting at. I don't know. I found this specific. Okay, now let's discuss the same topic now, but keeping in mind trans crap. Since the constituency of the male gay rights movement is very overtly and definitively classified and degraded as quote unquote womanish or quote unquote effeminate, it might seem that a logical and proud gay male political strategy would be to demand citizenship as women, a strategy of challenging the presumption of male citizenship. So, they don't want to be in the male category, but as viewed as lesser males. So, wouldn't it be easier to be viewed as full women? Um, and you know, with this keeping in the theme of the book, men describe what reality is. Men's perspective and wishes and experiences form what is reality, right? In a patriotic in a patriarchal society, right? So I think based on what I've learned from the essays so far, it makes complete sense, like that a man declaring himself a woman is a woman because men are in charge and what men say is the truth. Like I don't mean literally, I mean like in terms of patriarchy, right? Um okay. In fact, as some gay men have understood, not even in the popular not even if popular mind has not, gay men generally are in significant ways, perhaps in all important ways, only more loyal to masculinity and male supremacy than other men. Then she mentions Plato's Symposium there. The homoeroticism celebrated in Plato's Symposium and applauded in the contemporary gay circles is clearly both generally elitist and specifically male supremacist. I've read the Symposium when I was 16 or 17, but it's been a fucking long time, and I honestly can't remember what it is that she's referring to. Okay. And I'm definitely not going to waste time reading male philosophers anytime soon. Okay. Second point. What was the second? I just want to give you the short title before I get into it. Worship of the penis. Okay. So, does this look very strange? This probably looks very strange. Also, I'm definitely like really slouching. My mom would be unhappy. um, in phallocentric culture, the penis is deified, fetishized, mystified, and worshipped. I love the adjectives. Are those adjectives or adverbs? I don't fucking know how English works as a language, but I love the word choices here. So fetishized, as in the thing that is different is the thing that is celebrated to the point of like objectification. At least so far, that's how I think she's been using fetishize in this book. Deified, She talks about men being gods of their own world, about men viewing themselves as all powerful over the women who are underneath them, this kind of thing. So I like deified. Mystified. She mentioned before how even though sex is like one of the most primary elements of like the most basic power dynamic that permeates all of society, and that we are constantly sex signaling um with like behavior and style and like everything, speech, everything, the actual thing that makes you male or female, your genitals, is like taboo, right? In like general society, right? So mystified and worshipped. I'm not, we all know. I'm not gonna explain worshipped. Okay, anyway, let's go. Um, okay, this. Male literature proves with convincing redundancy that straight men identify with their penises and are simultaneously strangely alienated from them. Note, Carolyn Schaefer pointed out to me, according to this use of identify with, the identification presupposes the alienation, since one can only identify with something that is other than themselves. So, I think she's saying is that they. Which word should I use here? It's not personhood, it's not their humanity. They like dissociate their anatomy from their metaphysical place in society. Like I think part of it is like the deification, right? That if you view your penis as something that's that powerful, it's not merely like a finger, that's something that's on your body, right? It's like a thing unto itself, not merely a part of you, right? Maybe? Like if it's being deified and worshipped to that extent. I think so. Anyway. Oh my god, like again, this phrase, the culture is one in which men are not commonly found laughable when they characterize the female as a castrated male. So, it is the having and the wielding, not no, not even the having, it is the using of the penis as a tool for domination that puts one in the male category. Without the penis to use to dominate others, you're out of the male category. Like, and I don't mean this obviously in a biological sense. I'm talking philosophically, right? Oh my god. So then, when women practice penis worship, is it their way of trying to attain access to the category of people who have penises, who use them as tools of dominance and therefore have power? Okay, let's keep going. It is a culture in which an identification of the penis with power, presence, and creativity is found plausible, not the brain, the eyes, the mouth, the hand, but the penis. So she's like, I think pointing out how absurd that is. It's just like some fucking appendage, you know? Okay. There is nothing in gay male culture that challenges the patriarchal concept that the penis is like very powerful and very important and very relevant, right? She's like, in fact, everything they do is like more overt, is a more overt expression of that concept than anything straight men do. I think I kind of argue against that in some ways. Because when with the gay men's penis worship is only affecting other women, other men, and the way that men centralize the power of the penis, straight men centralize the power of the penis, has like a devastating and huge effect on women, right? Like you lose your virginity, you're like useless to society now, this kind of thing, right? So in that way, maybe you could argue it's more overt, but this is more about the word overt specifically. So okay, who cares? Okay, um, Like this, listen to this. I'm definitely going to put quotes of this on TikTok or something. If worship of the phallus is central to phallocratic culture, then gay men, by and large, are more like ardent priests than infidels, and the gay rights movement may be the fundamentalism of the global religion, which is patriarchy. So she is like, that's why I was like saying that they're like supermen. Like, if men in the metaphysical sense is measured by your loyalty and support of other men, and just as much. So is she positing in the essay that loyalty to male supremacy can be a substitute for dominating women, or that dominating women without the sexual aspect combined with loyalty to male supremacy can like overshadow the fact that they are not sexually subjugating women? I don't know, but this like the idea that they're priests of male supremacy because they are like entirely devoted to it, even on a sexual level, makes a lot of sense to me. Um, okay, I have to go to the washroom, and then I'm going to check the live chat, and then I'm going to keep going. Where's my little be back in 5 minutes thing? It's never 5 minutes though, is it? It's always like 3 minutes or 2 minutes, but um, I need to go to the washroom, and then I'll be back. Okay, like just 1 second. Mama. Okay. So I don't want to get bogged down in the live chat for 40 minutes, but I'm going to be very, very picky with what I actually read and reply to. I'm only going to read and reply to things that pertain to the essay specifically. Okay. Okay. Dragon, you achewed into the live chat? That's hilarious. Gigi says 41 years ago and still relevant. Exactly. Hey, VF. VF says het men are benefiting from women more. So if you view it as like a use of resources, right? I would agree generally, but I also think like so many lesbians or just women I know, like the whole concept of a fag hag, that is not like I view that as a parasitic relationship, honestly. I think that gay men exploit women in similar way. Like obviously it's not the same if you're not like living with them 24/7 and there's not like marriage in society is viewed as like a contract with expectations, right? So it's obviously not that, but I think gay men benefit from women quite a bit more than we have a general consciousness of it anyway. Um, Aisha says I look like a blue firefox. Your hair looks good. Thank you, Aisha. Okay. Matt Adams says with trans men, an emasculated man is still receiving more personhood than women. I can see it in the TRA crowd with how the men are still listened to and platformed over the actual women. Yes, 100%. Gigi, tell me your thoughts that will offend people. Oh yeah, I have like very very bad ADHD, so I have like really shit impulse control, which is why like if I can see the live chat, I'll keep getting distracted by it, and I kept covering it. Or I want to cover it more these days, so I'm more intentional about when I'm speaking to you guys. Um, OMG, VF thinks that I look fierce. That's very nice of you to say. Um, OMG, Gigi, what color is your hair going to be? Tell us everything. Oh, Dina or Dinah? Doesn't Dinah have an H at the end? Whatever. Dina or Dinah is here. She says, I was in a chat of a gay male YouTuber. He does a live stream with three other gay men. All women said, please don't call us cis women. The gay men replied, shut up before we call you fish. Oh, wow. So progressive. J. Marie says she was creeped out by Hugo. I don't really know what happened when it went down in the live chat that day, but I did see a couple of different women having negative reactions to what was going on with Hugo. Um, I have thought, okay, I've always been like a female separatist to some extent. Um, and I want to make this channel female focused, right? But I also recognize this is the internet. Can't control who views my videos, can't control who comments on my videos. And even if I try to censor the comments that I think are made by men, like it's really hard to tell with YouTube because it's just like random names. Like it most of the time it's not even an account that I can look up their Twitter, right? It's like literally just some random name. So I kind of want to have a blanket policy of like no men in live chats, but it's like 1000% unenforceable. So I'm not quite sure. Like, should we ban guys who tell us that they're guys? There's only been like a couple of them, like who've done that. I don't know. Will you guys tell me what you think? Okay. Mm. Dina says, I couldn't believe it. Gay men are enjoying watching women try to say no to this, but being ignored. Then they tried to mansplain what a woman is. Yeah. Like she says in which essay was it? Right, in the separatism and power essay. She talks about the ability to say no is like the hallmark. Not even the hallmark. It's like the base level of power. Like the first step in having power is the power to say no to someone. And she's like, women don't even have that, right? And so when you say this, like gay men are enjoying watching women try to say no. Um so women are not allowed to say no to stuff, right? That's mean, that's bad. That's not what you're there for. You're there to provide a service, or even if that service is to be degraded and dehumanized for the benefit of a male ego, right? So this is a perfect example. Just because they're gay men doesn't mean they actually want to support women. They just want to be they just want to be respected in the same way that straight men are respected. And they recognize clearly that pre- preventing women from saying no, contributing to the social dynamics that prescribe reality onto women is a way in which they can show their loyalty to straight men and therefore attempt to gain the respect that straight men have from each other. And it's like, I don't think that's going to work, first of all. And also, you're a piece of shit. Okay. Um, Gigi says no matter what they say, their behavior shows that they view trans women as brothers. Yeah, I totally agree. Gigi, you're going for lavender? I've never tried to go for like a pastel purple. I've never really tried to go for pastel color, period, in my hair. Because with purple, I feel like it always washes out to pink, and I fucking hate that. So I just try and keep it dark all the time. But I wonder, maybe I need to get my hair white first, though. Like my hair is pretty good at doing that, but I just need, from where I am now, I think it's hard to get there. Okay. No, cyber. Like I can ban all the men from the live chat when I see them show up. But do we think this is effective? Because I feel like like if I made a statement like men aren't allowed to comment on my videos or something, I think that would bring them out, and then it would become a situation of how am I supposed to tell if I'm supposed like I don't want to be like banning women because I can't tell who the men are, you know. It turns rose gold and I like it. Oh, interesting. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to cover you again. We're going to keep moving along. I want to tell you which percentage we are through the essay. Yeah, there's like I can't do math. There's like 15 pages left, so we're like halfway through. Okay. All right. Okay, we talked about the penis worship stuff. Squeaky, you're awake. Come see the people. Come. Say hello. Now you don't squeak suddenly? Okay. Wickedness. Are you gonna sit down? You can sit down here. Don't knock the fucking laptop over, Jesus Christ. Well, I guess it was my bad for disturbing you. But you don't seem that disturbed, to be honest. Okay. Well, now there's a chance you'll see Momo because Squeaky's left, so Momo will come to this side of the room now. Like, when I come home and Momo is downstairs and won't come upstairs, I know Squeaky is in here. Okay. Okay, then she talks about how, in contrast to, gay men who worship penis, obviously, lesbians and feminists, and when she uses feminists, I assume she means, like, quite radical feminists, just by, like, the characteristics she ascribes to them, um, associate negative values and feelings with penises, since penises are connected to a great extent with their degradation, terror, and pain. Um, yeah. She talks about basically how women are at best indifferent or at worst afraid of penises. And so this is like, a huge slap in the face to the patriarchal concept that the penis is like all powerful. This I also found very strange. And like, I don't know. Listen to this. I suspect that if penises were enjoyed a good deal more and worshipped a great deal less, everyone's understanding of both male and female sexuality, of power and love, would change beyond recognition and much for the better. I mean, I guess that is based on her imagining once we've gotten past the oppression, right? That deifying the penis and objectifying sexuality and womanhood in sexual contexts are the problem and not the actual existence physically of, like, flesh beings that have penises. I do not read gay male culture as that radical a culture of enjoyment, in spite of its hedonistic rhetoric and the number of good cooks it produces. Okay, that I thought was kind of funny and sassy, but also, like, I don't really know what she's getting at here, and I don't remember a point in the essay where she comes back to it. So, the hedonistic aspect, in spite of the hedonistic rhetoric, I think what she's talking about is how gay men are like, we love sex because, like, we like having sex because we like having sex. Like, we go out and party and hook up all the time because we enjoy sex. That it's all like hedonistic, like for the pleasure of the self, right? But I guess I don't know where she's going with this. Like, if I try to fill in the blank of the I do not read gay male culture as that radical culture of enjoyment in spite of its hedonistic rhetoric and the number of good cooks it produces. Maybe what she's trying to get at is that gay men exert their authority over other gay men, and so they're actually a culture of harming themselves rather than in an attempt, like, because when you dominate, that's how you have power, right? Rather than a culture of, like, positive hedonism. I don't know, but anyway, I just found that interesting. I didn't really know what she was trying to say. Yeah, okay. The third principle, which is male homoeroticism. Yeah, so men viewing other men as full persons and therefore having a capacity for a much deeper, intimate relationship with men than with women, right? Okay. Oh, also, this is where she starts using the word fucking. I did not expect this book. Like, look at the cover of this book. It's a radical lesbian feminist separatist philosophy book, okay? I did not expect this book to have the word fucking in it. And then once she started using it, it was like in every paragraph. Okay. Um so she brings up, I'm going to go through this step by step because I didn't really understand what her point was. She talks about how men refer to, okay, cultural images of sex and sexual acts refer and pertain overwhelmingly to male dominant, female subordinate genital intercourse. That is fucking. Okay. Men insist that there is no connection between the act, fucking, and love, affection, emotional connection, admiration, honor, anything passion based, right? Um, It's just so interesting to me. To say that straight men are heterosexual is only to say that they engage in sex, fucking, exclusively with or upon or to the other sex, i.e., women. All so she's like, it's only the only thing it tells you about them is what they do with their genitals. It doesn't tell you anything about their emotion or their capacity for intimacy, right? All or almost all of that which pertains to love, straight men reserve exclusively for other men. The people whom they admire, respect, adore, revere, honor, whom they imitate, idolize, and form profound attachments to, whom they are willing to teach, and from whom they are willing to learn, and whose respect and admiration and recognition, honor, reverence, and love they desire, those are overwhelmingly other men. Um, so this is the homoeroticism. And like, I don't know, with where we are in language now, homoerotic doesn't seem like the best choice of language, but I understand what she's talking about, and I totally. Um, so she's like, it's from men that they get their like emotional and psychological fulfillment. From women, they want devotion, service, and sex. So she mentions this, I think, in the separatist essay too, where she talks about like women are kind of like refreshment stations for men. They want someone to cook for them, they want someone to clean for them, they want someone to sexually dominate, to boost their ego. That's the purpose of women. If that's the purpose of women, like if they if not if since patriarchal since men who buy into patriarchy, the idea that men have like inherent personhood over women who don't have personhood, um fuck, I lost my train of thought. Okay, let's keep going with the essay then. All right. So, right. No. If men are phallists, they buy into the idea that it is men who have inherent personhood and women don't. And women exist for degradation to make men dominant, right? Like if that's it's like a whipping boy or something, right? Like if their actual purpose is to be degraded, right? If that's their actual purpose, it would actually be kind of a weird thing to treat them with respect or to expect anything else from them or to reciprocate in any way. Like yeah, like she she basically constructs the image of women as like the whipping boys of men. And so like if you went with that analogy, it would actually be like a very bizarre thing like for someone to treat their whipping boy, right? Now I'm also realizing I don't actually know the historical context of that word, and perhaps it is very problematic to be using that word. Okay, let's move on. Let's go. Okay. Gay male culture is also homoerotic. Oh, wait, yeah. So she's like, the idea that men, straight men, get their emotional and psychological fulfillment from other men is perfectly consistent with the heterosexual concept that sex is for degrading women and getting your power, and they're not there for any other purpose. So it's consistent that you go to men for everything else. That's kind of what I was trying to say before, but like less concisely. Okay. Um, Gay male culture is also homoerotic. She's like, there's almost nothing about gay male culture which suggests any type of like support or affinity for women because they have like barely any interaction with them. Like, not in literal sense, but in like a material support kind of sense. Um, or like if you think of gay men's relationships with women, it's like I said, it was often parasitic, right? Like, often when you look at like fag hag type relationships, it really seems like the guy is using the girl as like a pseudo girlfriend. Like, he wants his like emotional needs taken care of and stuff like that. And so that's why he has her around. Like, she is a resource for him to exploit, just in a different way that has nothing to do with sex. Like, we shouldn't underestimate the ability of males to exploit women in many ways. Okay. Um so she talks about lesbian and lesbian feminist culture is also homoerotic, that we get our psychological and emotional fulfillment from women, but also, oh yeah, and she talks about how this is the man hating. This is what society labels as man hating. That you are not dependent upon men, and therefore you do not signal your loyalty through your behavior to men. Um, she talks about this too when she talks about abortion and separatism. That men need to be needed because they've positioned themselves in that's their position in the power structure. So as soon as the women are like, we don't need you, this is a threat to them, right? It's not like a neutral thing to be like, oh, I'm going to go off and do my own thing. For them, that is like existentially threatening because they need to either like be dominating you, telling you what to do, like supporting, like, financially having power over you, like all this kind of stuff. So as soon as you fuck off and do your own thing, they're like, how can I exert my authority over you if you're not in my sphere anymore? Okay. And if I can't exert my authority over you, am I even a man? Like, existentially. Okay. Um yeah. She talks again how like this is proof that gay men are more loyal to male supremacy than straight men. Okay. Um okay. I'm going to this sentence, the first time I read it, like when I read, I kind of fill in the blanks before I get there. Kind of. I don't know. Like, it's like an impulsive thing. And I like messed it up like 3 times. And it's because I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna read it and like try and let it percolate a bit, okay? Given the sharpness of the male, female, and masculine, feminine dualism of phallocentric thought. Okay, let's stop there. So far, also, what time is it? Oh, it's only 3. Okay. So far, the way she uses the term masculinity is to mean like phallocentrism, like phallism, like um, the belief in and actions in support of the concept that Men have inherent personhood and inherent dominion over women, and women, their telos, their entire like purpose and their best potential is to be subservient and to be dominated. Um, so when she uses the term masculinity, she is referring to behaviors which signal, reinforce, and perpetuate this mindset. Okay, so let's read this again. Given the sharpness of the male female and masculine feminine dualism of phallocratic thought. Okay, so also I'm going to go back to the love, in and out of harm's way, um, arrogance and love. So that the arrogant I is like the part of the essay that explains this phallism that I have just right. So here, when she's uses masculine and feminine, I'm assuming that the feminine is the buying into the concept that you're there to serve men, you'll reach your happiness through serving men, that's what you're for, all this crap, right? Okay, let's keep going. Given the sharpness of the male female and masculine feminine dualism of phallocratic thought. Phallocratic thought? Yeah. Because, like, most of this book isn't actually about, like, physical things that people do, like, in the real world, right? Most of this book is about perception, conception, attitudes. Woman hating is an obvious corollary of man hating, man loving. Okay, so if you are committed to phallism, which is the concept that men have personhood, men should inherently be respected, men should have inherent dominion over women, woman hating is an obvious corollary of man loving. So, if you love men, you must buy into phallism and support that they have inherent dominion and personhood over women. And if you believe that, then you must support the hatred of women. Okay. I feel like maybe I was a little too detailed with my deconstruction of this one phrase, but it like the first time I read it through, like I was like, wait, what's she saying? Okay. Okay. Also this, I was like understatement of the fucking century, man. Um, Contempt for women is such a common thing in this culture that it is sometimes hard to see. Sometimes, how about all the fucking time? Like, okay. Uh I find it also interesting, like whenever she lists material or anecdotal stuff to back up the abstract concepts that she is explaining, the list is usually pretty short. She chooses like one or two things, right? In this list of what is woman hating, she specifically lists man-made lesbian pornography. I just found it interesting that that made the cut. Um, Not that it shouldn't, but I don't know. That's good. Okay. She talks about how men comparing other men to women is seen as like offensive. Why? Because being a woman is being less than a man. If you didn't inherently believe that, you wouldn't find it offensive, right? Um, so she talks about how men signal their loyalty to phallocentrism and their loyalty to their brothers, basically, through the casual ways. Well, one of the ways they do this is the casual ways. Solidarity, male solidarity is the word she uses here. Is in the casual ways that they. If what defines a man as a being who has power is his exertion of power over women, right? So it's kind of like being like I'm the world champion in wrestling and then coming into a group and explaining all the different like wrestling moves you've done or whatever, the times you've won or something. So this is like when men tell each other about their conquest, tell each other about like the women that they've like treated in derogatory ways, like when they um when they brag to each other about rape and stuff like this. She's like all of this, it's all the same thing. All of it is signaling solidarity with other men and putting them it's like in the us versus them mentality of like us. We're like on the same group of like the doers, the howers. Okay. In a woman hating culture, one of the very nasty things that can happen to a man is his being treated or seen as a woman or woman like. This degradation makes him a proper object of rape and derision and reverses for him the presumption of civil rights. So she is like, the moment you get labeled as an effeminate man, like, this is what emasculation is. Like, really, emasculation is the loss of respect from other men because you haven't made their cut for what is a man, right? So she is like, gay men are treated woman like. Like, this is not a new thing. Or to me at least. Obviously, this is old, but like, to me, this is not a new thing that um, homophobia is just like a different expression of misogyny, really, right? Yeah, I don't care to go into that actually. But yeah, so she is like, I think basically kind of what she's saying in this section is like gay men recognize that like homophobia means being grouped with a woman in a derogatory way. So I guess what she was saying at the earlier part of the essay, like that it might be like a proud gay political strategy to group themselves as women, would kind of be like because they're doing it before it gets done to them, they're taking back the power. Obviously though, she's like it's kind of stupid. Okay, but like um because once you get labeled as like being man light or womanish when you're male by other men, what are they going to do about it? Well, obviously, you are now going to be one of the things that they dominate to feel powerful, right? Um, and so she says, this is a dreadful fate. This dreadful fate befalls gay men. And she's like, it's not fair for them to be like knocked down a peg to the woman level of respect because they're very much men and like really loyal to men. So she's like, the men should recognize that they're on their side, like they're stupid. Okay. Um, and this, like, okay, I feel like I was reading about fucking Tim's in this section. Some of the very things which lead straight people to doubt gay men's manhood are, in fact, proofs of it. Here she talks about the effeminacy. Okay. So this I kind of want to get into because I was like reading it. This section, if I was reading without the camera, I probably would have like stopped, thought about it for a few minutes, and reread it again. Um, One of the things which persuades the straight world that gay men are not really men is the effeminacy of style of some gay men and the gay institution of the impersonation of women, both of which are associated in the popular mind with male homosexuality. But as I read it, gay men's effeminacy and donning of feminine apparel displays no love or identification with a woman or the womanly. So she's like, it's a theatrical exaggeration. It's a casual and cynical mockery of women for whom femininity is the trappings of oppression. So she kind of goes both ways on it. In one hand, she is like, some of them are just playing with gender, and that's kind of harmless, right? They're trying to kind of like mock the concept of the like gender roles and gender stereotypes, right? And she says that's kind of harmless because, like, obviously she doesn't support gender roles and stereotypes, right? But then she also takes it the other way, which is that for a man to be feminine and for it to be remarkable, he has to be a man in the first place. And because he's a man in the first place who's doing the effeminacy, this is just another way in which he has choices that women don't have. That's generally how I understood this section, but I'm trying to read through it and listen to this. Cocky lads who are sure of their immortality are the ones who do acrobatics on the ledge 5 stories above the pavement. When gay male affection when gay male affectation of femininity seems to me to be is a kind of serious sport in which men may exercise their power and control over the feminine, such as in other sports one exercises physical power and control over elements of the physical universe. Some gay men achieve indeed prodigious mastery of the feminine, and they are often treated by those in the know with the respect due to heroes. Um, this is also like so. Probably most of you women watching are of the same opinion as me, which is that if a man thinks he can become a woman or even wants to become a woman in any way, so even like a GC Tim, right? To even have a conception of womanhood that is becomable means you have objectified women, right? And I think that's kind of what she's saying here is like the ultimate recognition of the fact that women are objectified is the fact or the possibility that men can be woman like by taking on the characteristics which are enforced on women. I don't know if I'm making a ton of sense, but I don't know. I just find it very interesting. Okay, let's keep going. Um, but the mastery of the feminine is not feminine, it is masculine. Because also, if it is prescribed by men as a thing to subjugate women, then it is men who have the power to mock it and women do not, right? Like for them, it's optional, and for us, it's not supposed to be optional, like within the power hierarchies. Okay. Someone with such mastery may have the very first claim to manhood. So, and I think all of this is basically her way of saying, like, you don't need to be like a manly, and here I use masculine in the original term masculine, like, and masculine man to a gay man to be a part of the problem, to be contributing to, um, she's just kind of pointing out that, like, being a feminine gay man is not some like unique position to be in that's different from other gay men when it comes to like the power structure of men. Okay. Then she brings up the idea that they're like, so she thinks that this signifies that they are actually like, yeah, that they have the first claim to manhood, right? And she's like, there's gay men who also like the idea that because they can perform femininity, that they are like superior to everyone else. Um, she's like, rev- they clearly reveal thereby that they do indeed pass the contempt for women test of manhood. So she is like, I think, yeah, this kind of draws back to what I was wondering about before. So she talks a lot about how like domination over women is how men have their position in society. But she's saying like you can signal your contempt for women and like behave in solidarity with patriarchy without having sex with women. She's like, look, these are the ways that they do it that straight men can't even do. Okay. This phrase I liked. One might have hoped that since gay men themselves can be, in a way, victims of women hating because they're categorized as woman like, and that's the and it's because of their failure to like be men in every way that they're experiencing that. So that's like similar to the power structures that of misogyny. Um, they might have come to an unusual identification with women and hence to political alliance with them. She's like, this is a political possibility to some degree, actualized by gay men, but for most, such identification is really impossible. They know, even if not articulately, that their classification with women is based on profound misunderstanding. Um, so basically, they're butthurt over it rather than like trying to understand it. Okay. Um, oh, there was this other phrase here. Like most other men who, for one reason or another, get a taste of what it's like to be a woman in a woman hating culture, they are inclined to protest not the injustice of anyone ever being treated so shabbily, but the injustice of their being treated so that they are not women. Okay. This is the thing that I'm talking about all the time, where I'm like, there's like three levels, like being praised, neutrality, and like disrespect. And it's like when men experience this, that they're used to being praised and then they experience neutrality, or they're used to being like praised or neutrality and experience criticism, they view it as like an attack on their humanity and personhood, like it's a big fucking deal. Like this is it. This is it. When a man feels degraded, instead of being like so in this example, if a gay man is degraded by being treated like a woman or like compared to a woman, right? Instead of thinking like, "Oh fuck, this is a taste of a bit of what it's like to be a woman. Oh shit, must be really bad for them." Instead of that, right? Their first thought is, "Well, I deserve to be in the dominant and I want to be the dominating one." Right? Because they are essentially phallocratic. Like they buy into the phallocracy, which also how am I supposed to pronounce that? Phallocracy? Phallocracy. Because that sounds like really like a F sound if I say phallocracy. Like I think phallocracy is probably the way to do it. Phallocratic. Yeah. Okay. I almost wish I had like maybe I'll do this for the next book that I read about lesbian philosophy. I wish I had like written down some of these words like as I was going through the essays, like phallists, as in terms of like a mindset. I love that. Well, you might have noticed because I keep fucking using it. Okay. The straight culture's identification of gay men with women usually only serves to intensify gay men's investment in their difference and distinction from the female other. This is exactly what I fucking say about trans women. Once society recognizes this person as a woman or as feminine or whatever, the more they become emasculated, and I mean this both psychologically and physically, the more their behavior becomes hypermasculine and hyperaggressive. Because they need to signify to the men around them, hey, yo, I'm like you. I'm one of the bros. Support me, have solidarity with me. And like, I'm going to support you and have solidarity with you because I'm one of your bros. Like, the less it is explicit in the normal ways, right? By visibly being male or like by having male parts, the more they need to signify it in behavioral ways. Okay. Um, Such strategies must involve one form or another of public acting out of male dominance and female subordination. It is not easy to find ways to stage public actions and appearances which present simultaneously the gayness of gay men and their correct male supremacist contempt for women. Affected effeminacy does display this, but it is popularly misunderstood. It would be perfect if some of the many gay men who are married would appear with their wives. Okay, whatever. She talks about how they're married now. Oh, here it is. When then, but then she's like, obviously, if you are appearing with your wife, that's not very gay of you, right? So, who then are the women who will appear slightly to the side of or slightly behind gay men, representing the female other in the proper relation and contrast to their manhood? Lesbians, of course. Um, Gay men can credibly present themselves as men, that is, as beings defined by superiority to women, if there are lesbians in the gay rights movement, given only that males are always or almost always in the visible position of leadership. It's interesting because, on one hand, what I imagine is like a gay male utopian situation would be for females to not be involved in anything, right? But with the way that she has explained manhood throughout the book, men are essentially insecure. So, they necessitate women to exert control over and to subordinate in some way. And it seems to me like the two options are either like in political situations and like in like action situations, right? To be lesbians. And then in like social day-to-day life situations for gay men, those are fag hags. Like, even though they are male centered, because they have a necessity to be above women, then they have to be in relation to women in some aspect. So they need to have women around to some degree, right? It's very interesting. Okay. I keep saying that. It must be boring for you guys. For me to just like say random bullshit and be like, it's interesting. Okay. Okay. I have to keep track of the time. Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry. Okay. La la la. So she's like gay culture. She finishes off this section for by saying like gay culture buys into like using women, degrading women, doing all the things that male supremacy demands as like uh proofs and solidarity with male supremacy. Mama, come here. Her face. She's like, you expect me to move? So this is the fifth section, the compulsory heterosexuality thing. So the missionary sex, which she has defined as sex that establishes the man as the dominant and as the woman as the subordinate, is a compulsory part of male supremacy, right? So obviously, most gay men fail at this. Um, but it's interesting too, because obviously this is a product of her time, right? The way that she writes about so many gay men having husbands and stuff, like, I mean, wives and kids, and being like, yeah, I have like a heterosexual family. That's pretty far removed from my experience of anything gay. Like, obviously, there's still gay men who are like, yeah, I had one, but they're not walking around being part of the gay. I guess a big part of it is the internet. Like, you can't do that anymore and get away with it, right? Um, and women, I think, in the Western world are probably less likely to put up with that shit. But oh my god, when I was reading this section, I thought about Shoop. Listen to this. Well, I don't know. But there's like a phrase in here that's about how women who are loyal to like phallocratic orthodoxy will like wait at home while their husband goes out to fuck men because it's like part of their bargain, right? That you stay here and you let him come back and fuck you, and by being subordinated by him, you're supposed to have like a level of protection or resources from him or whatever. And when I read that, I literally was thinking of James Shoup because he literally was like, "Yeah, I told my wife I'm going out to the park to cruise." And like, yeah, she was like waiting for me at home while I did that. And I was like, fucking what the fuck? That's like so like again, in my experience of the world, like a pretty unusual thing in 2022 in like North America at least. Okay. So, a man who does not or will not fuck women is not pulling his share of the load. He is not not a loyal and dependable member of the team. So, she's like, this is an aspect in which gay men fail to, or many gay men fail to conform to male supremacy. Their reluctance to play out this part of manhood is due only to an imbalance, where the requisite woman hating has taken a form and reached an intensity which puts it in tension with this other requirement of manhood. Is she saying that male homosexuality is the ultimate expression of misogyny? Because I kind of don't agree with that based on the rest of the principles put forth in the book. Because if the act of dominating a woman is like, in an existential sense, makes her less than, isn't it, if you as a man fail to dominate women, if you fail to dominate women, you're failing to do the one most woman hating act possible, right? Couldn't it be argued that? I don't know. Okay. They would break a rule of philocracy, but in many cases they are loath to do their duty only because they have learned all too well their lessons in woman hating. Their reluctance to play out this part of memberhood is due only to an imbalance, where the prerequisite woman hating has taken form and reached an intensity which puts in tension with the other requirements for manhood. Such divergence of gay life from male supremacist culture clearly is not a turning from a fundamental male supremacist value so much as it is a manifestation of the tensions internal to those values. So she's saying like, okay, I think maybe this is what she's saying. Men dominating women is an act of self-hatred. But to do this, you need to be able to like put up with being this is my understanding, okay? I'm not saying this is what she said. This is my understanding of what I think she's saying. But to like put up with being in close proximity to the thing you hate, you must not hate it like that much, right? If you reach like peak hating something, you can't even be around it, right? So I think that's what she's saying. Like men enact their hatred of women partially enact their hatred of women through sexual domination and subordination of women, right? Gay men hate women so much they can't even get that close to doing it. Like they can't even do that. They hate them too much to do that. I think that's kind of what she's saying. I agree with like most of what's in this essay. I don't know if I agree with that. I need to like let it percolate a bit. Okay. So she's like the gay rights movement, at least as she saw it in 1981, was not so much as the right to never have sex with women, but the right to sexually access men as well. So she saw it more as like opening up a new avenue rather than the right of men to say no to fulfilling this aspect of patriarchal power, which is interesting. How many times I'm going to say that? um, okay, so part 6. Which was entitled The Presumption of General Phallic Access. So, she's talked before in other essays about how access and power are like um, correlated, and that you know who has the power by knowing who has the right to say no. So, women can't say no to men, right? So that's how you know that the men have the power, and that women saying no to men is like the first step in exercising like agency and in rebelling against the institutional norms of like a phallocratic society. Okay, so she views men as mandating access as one of their fundamental like proofs of how much power they have and also of how insecure they are. Okay, so we now come to the only one of the fundamental principles of male supremacist culture and society where there really is an interesting divergence between it and the values and principles of what it labels male homosexuality. Even here, the situation is ambiguous, for the male gay rights movement only wants too much of something that is already very dear to straight men. Their dicks. Maybe I'll get teal hair dye. Like lean into the green. I don't know. Today's stream is sponsored by Wendy's. Can you even see the Wendy's? There, Wendy's. I mean, obviously not, but I'm eating Wendy's. Okay. So, she's like, one of the things that define men in a patriarchal society as men is that they consider themselves, in virtue of their genital maleness, to have a right to access to whatever they want. The only acceptable person to say no to other men is men themselves, and even then, it should be when men are in pursuit of like a higher form of solidarity with male supremacy. So, she is like, it is an existential threat to men generally to see other men emasculated by being dominated by other men, right? So, she is like, the exception to this is if you want to cross like race, class, age boundaries, because then you are dominating someone who is already a subordinate. Then you're not threatening the other like adult men of the dominant class who are supposed to be dominant, right? Basically, society phallocentric society is not okay with men dominating the other men who are supposed to be dominants by subordinating the beings who are supposed to be the dominants. So she says this is the essential way in which gay men deviate from male supremacy. But not only is this the way that they deviate from male supremacy, this is also central. Sexual access is central to the gay rights movement, the male gay rights movement. So she's like, even though it's perceived by other straight men as like a threat to them, she is like, I actually would argue it is a proof of male supremacy that they won't take no for an answer and that they're gonna like fight to get them sexual like liberty that they want, that they view like that men have the sexual liberty they want to have, like straight men, right? So the gay men want to reach man level and have the same sexual liberties. So then she talks about how this is put forth in one of her previous essays. Like, if one perceives oneself to be male and has bought into male supremacy, one believes oneself to be like a god, and not just a god of oneself, but of all things. Because if you are like, if what you know is what is to be known, if what you think is the truth, if your experience is the experience, right? That's prescriptive of all the people around you, including men. So she is like, um, there must be a balancing factor because obviously this is like impossible. So what mitigates that from going to the extreme that it is, right? She's like, sure enough, there is a sort of quote unquote incest taboo built into standard masculinity. A properly masculine being does not prey upon or consume other masculine beings of his group. It is a moderating theme like the rule of honor among thieves. So like she's like, in order for them not to basically cannibalize each other in an existential way, the agreement is that no man ever dominates any other man, like sexually, obviously. Um, so it's kind of, she mentions honor among thieves. So it's like if all men were thieves, but the gay men are the men who don't respect the honor among thieves thing. The prescription against male fucking is the lid on masculinity, the limiting principle which keeps masculinity from being simply an endless firestorm of undifferentiated self. As such, that prescription is necessarily always in tension with the rest of masculinity. This tension gives masculinity its structure, but it is also forever problematic. As long as males are socialized constantly to masculinity, the specter of their running amok is always present. The straight man's phobic reaction to male homosexuality can then be seen as a fear of the unrestricted, unlimited, ungoverned masculinity. So she is saying the fact that they are like that they still have male privilege, they still hold the man position in society, even though they violate this one principle of male supremacy, is proof that they are like the most concentrated and distilled, ungoverned form of phallocratic or orthodoxy. And so that's a threat to men who are straight because they don't have this concentrated, ungovernable, distilled masculinity that gay men have. So she's like, to overcome this obstacle, what the male gay rights movement has done at this point in time is to instead of is to, so straight men view it as, oh, you're a man trying to subjugate another man, and like we do that to women, not to ourselves, like you're betraying men. And they're like, no, 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 we're not subjugating each other, we are like male bonding. Like, so this is not proof of us denigrating men, this is proof of us supporting men to an extent even more concentrated than what straight men do. Mm. So she's like, I can't comment on if it's like bonding or whether it's like sex acts between gay men. She's like, I don't know about that stuff. I can't tell you whether it's more analogous to rape, aka domination subjugation, or whether it's bonding. She's like, but I do know this. The fact that they have made the argument of like, don't come after us because we're even more manly men than you, and we are more loyal to male supremacy than you, is like them admitting that their principles and values perfectly align with male supremacy. And so she's like, this is like the highest form of proof that feminists and lesbians should not trust you. Okay. Jesus fuck, this essay is so long. Although I do think I'm getting like much more into the essay now than ever before, now that the live chat's covered. Okay. Um so like, given the stuff she's theorized or whatever so far in this essay, again, it makes complete sense that men don't support lesbians, have never really supported lesbians, would never really support lesbians, because it's like it's in their self-interest to contribute to male supremacy because they're males. They Why would they act against their self-interest? Because they have respect and care for women. Sure. Okay. Um and she's like, what lesbians are is like at the far end of like not accessible to penises, right? And what gay men are is at the other far end. I mean, this is like my understanding, she didn't explain it this way. At the other far end of like ultimately like accessible to penises and wanting access to penis, right? And so she's like, we are like diametrically opposed to each other. um like to the point where the existence of lesbian feminists is like kind of in some sense existentially threatening to gay men because they're for like 100% phallic access and lesbian feminists are for like 0% phallic access, right? So she doesn't say diametrically opposed, she says directly antithetical, which I liked. Okay. um because she's like, lesbian feminists want to you know deconstruct patriarchy, and gay men just want more access to patriarchy. Like, this essay, kind of, it's like gay men have like an addiction to masculinity and male supremacy that straight men don't have, and that they're like slaves to it almost. Yeah. Again, it's really harsh. Like, what was the essay I read? The anger essay, where she was like, men are useless and can't take care of themselves, and all women will be better without the men around. Like, just the phrasing and the tone is like so fucking harsh. Okay. Um so then she talks about how gay men are victimized by straight men. And so she says that the way he conceives of this is that he still has manhood, but that he is different from straight men in terms of gender. So she's like, they need to somehow square the fact that they're other from gay men, from straight men. And they don't do this by removing their manhood. They do this by conceptualizing of some other aspect being different. Um, Here starts talking about um, so she's like, how do you get out of that like thought trap, right? She's like, you need to invent new things, which is like, that's, she's mentioned this in several essays now. She's like, don't just do this or the opposite of this. She's like, do something completely in a new direction. Um, for a gay man, it is to be the traitor to masculinity that the straight man always thought he was. Sorry. So, for a man to even begin to think of such invention is worthwhile or necessary is to be disloyal to phallocracy. Okay, so, you know. Um, oh, yeah. Then she talks about like the normal. So, she's basically talking about one of the aspects of what we in this era refer to as privilege, which is that, like, you know, if you face misogyny, then you're aware of misogyny. If you're a man and you never face misogyny, you don't need to be aware of it. So, you're only aware of discrimination if you experience it, and otherwise we're ignorant of it. Um, so she actually says that by being in the group that experiences discrimination, you have a deeper understanding of the world than the people who discriminate on against you, because they don't have, like, they don't, because they're unaware of the discrimination from that side. They don't have like an understanding of it. I don't know. Um, okay, so she sets all this up simply to say the gay men, um I cannot tell another person. Yes, we have access to knowledge of bodies which is lost and or hidden in the dominant culture. In particular, both gay men and lesbians may have access to knowledge of bodily, sensory, sensuous pleasures that is almost totally blocked out in heterosexual male supremacist cultures, especially in the streams most dominated by white Christian commercial material militaristic styles and values. Yeah, Oh, also this. You know how when women talk about like beauty standards and eating disorders and stereotypes and all this stuff, men are always like, but men are held to such a high standard too, and it's like by women. Okay. The phallocratic orthodoxy about the male body's pleasure seems to be that strenuous muscular exertion and the orgasm associated with fucking are its highest and greatest forms. This doctrine suits the purpose of a society which requires both intensive fucking and a population of males who imagine themselves as warriors. So she is like, it's literally your fucking fault. You're the ones who were like, this is the symbolic best thing ever. And you are the ones who hold yourself to this standard and who want to be this way and who basically want to fulfill your egos. And then you turn around and point at women and you're like, it's their fault. Fuck off with that shit, man. Okay. So in this section, she basically talks about yeah. So this like hidden knowledge that she's talking about is basically how gay men like understand the prostate and that it's like a good thing for them. And so straight men um are, given the essay, understandably concerned about this because it's like an incentive on both sides for males to no longer be the dominant and to be subjugated, right? Um, a direct and enthusiastic pursuit of the pleasures of the male body will not, I suspect, lead men to masculinity, will not direct men to a life of preying on others and conquering nature, any more than a pursuit of bodily pleasure leads women to monogamous heterosexual. Sorry, that's not what I meant to read you. Wait, is it? Yeah, so she's like, I think in this section, also trying to say, like, yeah, okay, man, if you want to go off and pursue sexual pleasures that are known to gay men but not to straight men, like, you can do that without stuffing it into like the dominant and subjugated paradigm. Okay. So again, she's like, use your imagination, get out of the fucking box. Okay. So she also talks about like, if you are in a marginalized group and you experience the marginalization, you can see the structure and the way it works. If you're from the outside and you're not marginalized, you contribute to it, but you're often completely unaware of how it works. Um, so she says, because most, again, this is written in the 80s, most gay people have had experiences of like being straight and being gay. She's like, we've seen it from both sides. Um, and we have a view from the inside and the outside. And she's like, if there's anyone who can imagine a way of being that doesn't fulfill one of the sides of the paradigm, maybe side is not the right way to say it, but doesn't fulfill the paradigm, it's us. We've seen both sides. We should be able to figure out a new way. Um, and she's like, the will is the most necessary element, which to me is being like, that's why we haven't done it. That's why we haven't done it. And I think we, in this sense, is like society as a whole. Okay. Right. So then she starts talking about political lesbianism. So I guess to her, that is like the option that like is against the paradigm. So she talks about how it's an exercise in choice and There's this phrase here that female eroticism that is independent of males and of masculinity is possible and can be chosen. And you have to keep in mind with how how she's been using the word masculinity throughout the book, right? So she basically is saying, I think, any heterosexual sex act is an act of male supremacy, right? And so she's saying women should have the option to choose to have like a sex life that doesn't feed into male domination of women. Because I think like if you take a really big step back, she is like men need the women to fuck over to be on top. So like if every single woman on the planet woke up and decided, oh no, I'm not doing anything with men anymore, the men would lose existentially their position, right? I think that's kind of what she's trying to say. But like I would argue that you should just be like, what's the term? Isn't there a term? Politically celibate or whatever? Like, or you can make a new word that means like your life centers around women, but it doesn't extend to the point of sexuality and having sex. I don't know. But also, like, this right after she talks about like this secret knowledge that lesbians have of their own bodies and that gay men have of their own bodies that straight people don't have. I guess part of how she views it must be that gay women, lesbians, have this deeper knowledge and appreciation for our bodies and can enjoy it on a different level than straight women, and that political lesbians are gaining access to this deeper self knowledge by choosing to become lesbians, I guess, is what she's part of what she's saying. Um, anyway, this is like a very small section about political lesbianism. Then it gets back to the stuff with the gay men. Okay. So when you go back to this the normal or marginalized thing that she explains, then she is like the male gay liberation movement is very stuck on this idea of like we would be straight if we had a choice, but we have no choice. Like you're born this way. Like we're stuck like this. Like if only we weren't stuck like this, right? Um and so she's like they are constantly saying they want to be in like the normal category, to be in the position of not being able to and not having to see the inside of the power structures that oppress. Um this phrase also is so weird to me cuz like, Anung, she hangs out here. And she literally said that Marilyn Frye is not a political lesbian. I've never heard of Marilyn Frye as being a political lesbian, so I don't think she is one. Like, also, this is a philosophy book, right? So she's just like putting forth a ton of concepts and playing, like, stretching your mind in different directions. But listen to this phrase because it sounds to me a little bit third wavy, but I'm not quite sure what exactly she means with this phrase. For the benefits of marginality to be reaped, which is like the deeper knowledge that other people who don't have, marginality must in some be chosen. So that's what she's talking about, the knowledge of the self, right? That if lesbians have a knowledge of the self and then you choose to become a lesbian, you can like join them and gain their deeper knowledge of the self. I guess that's what she means by the benefits of marginalization, at least in this context here. Even if I'm going to keep going a little bit because I'm trying to understand really what she's getting at here. Even if in one's own individual history, one experiences one's patterns of desire as given and not chosen. Okay, so heterosexual feelings. One may deny, resist, tolerate, or embrace them. One can choose a way of life which is devoted to changing them, disguising oneself, or escaping the consequences of difference, or a way of life which takes one's differences as integral to one's stance and location in the world. Okay, so she, I think, is saying two things simultaneously. On one hand, she is saying choosing to be marginal, aka not participating in the paradigm. Doesn't necessarily need to be political lesbian. Can be deny, resist, tolerate, or embrace. So it's like having options and then picking an option. Um, so denying or resisting heterosexuality. I guess denying it would be claiming you're a lesbian. Okay. And she says, I think she's simultaneously saying that a lesbian could deny, resist, tolerate, or embrace. She has the same options. Being a lesbian. And can disguise oneself. You can go in either direction. You can behave the same way. One cannot see what it is to be seen from one's particular vantage point, or know what can be known to a body so located if one is preoccupied with wishing one were not there, denying the peculiarity of one's position, disowning oneself. Oh my fucking god. It's like she's talking about TIFFs. She's like, one cannot reach like the intellectual potential of understanding your position in the paradigm if the entire time you're wishing that you were on the other half of the paradigm. And thereby ignoring the unique characteristics that you put you in your unique situation in the paradigm. Like, this literally sounds like she's talking about trans men. You can't understand your female body and your position as a female in society, right? If the entire time you're obsessed with becoming a man. And like, listen to this, denying the peculiarity of one's position, so like the unique position you're in, right? Disowning oneself. Disowning oneself. If there's ever a better like way to sum up what a TIFF is. Okay. We're at the last page of the essay, by the way. Okay. This has been a long essay deconstruction, although I did talk for like 20 minutes about my hair. Okay. So I think this kind of leads back to some of the stuff she was saying before. She was like, just imagine an alternative possibility. Just imagine you have choices. She's like, that right there puts you in a different category than the people who haven't imagined they have choices. So she's like, the power available to those who choose, who decide in favor of deviance from heterosexual norms, can be very great. The choosing, the decide, I guess this is another justification or aspect of political lesbianism. The choosing, the deciding challenges doctrines of genetic determinism which obscure the fact that heterosexuality is part of politics. The choosing challenges the value placed on heterosexual normacy, and the choosing places the choosing agent in a position to create and explore a different vision. Yeah. But again, to me, like, this is something I mentioned a few days ago. It's like you shouldn't need like yes, imagine alternatives. Yes. Like have agency, like make your own choices, right? That are your own. But first of all, are you making your own unique choices if like political lesbian already exists and you are just like following a path that already exists, right? And also, I part of what I don't understand about the political lesbian thing, especially because it's supposed to be radical feminist, right? Is and like maybe somebody who knows more about this can answer this for me. Um I should just like email Sheila Jeffries. But like um why do women need to be having sex in the first place? It's like, I why can't you say, "No, I will not take part in heterosexuality," without saying, "Oh, it's because I'm doing this instead." Why can't you just say, "No, end of?" It's to me like the political lesbian thing is like, "No," and the justification right away, instead of just saying, "No," you know? That's kinda how part of it to me, at least. Okay. Anyway, back to gay men. But yeah, it's only like 2 paragraphs in the whole essay that mention political lesbians. Um, but I think it's like it's just because of what she's talking about. She's talking about like power, choice, like gay men's position, and like every time she mentions like like the extreme of gay men's male supremacy, she tries to, or a couple times in the essay, she tries to like give you the opposite. Like, what's the lesbian version of like gynocentric um whatever gynocentrism. And so I think that's probably why she put it right here at the end. Anyway, okay. So she's like, the gay male gay rights movement doesn't want to imagine. So she, here in the very last page, the political lesbian stuff that she mentions is put there as like, look, this is an alternative that someone imagined that's not one of the two choices. And they went and did that. Or, okay. And then she's like, the male gay rights movement, they don't want to imagine new choices. They don't want to do new things. They're not trying to break down anything or build anything new. She's like, all they're trying to do is get their cut of male supremacy. That's all that the gay male rights movement is trying to do. And so she is like, any woman looking towards that, like lesbians, looking towards that and thinking it's going to have a positive benefit to you, is not really paying attention, is not going to get what she wants. Is going to be disappointed. Um, okay, then this is and she talks about how part of that is like the desire for it to like fit into normalcy, and the desire to oh, and the like the desire to ignore the differences and to just try to be the same as the best, like the best beings, the straight men, right? So I'm just going to read you the last phrase of the essay. If there is hope for a coordination of the efforts and insights of lesbian feminists and gay men, it is here at the edges that we may find it, where we are working from chosen foundations in our different differences. So she's like imagining something completely new together might be a way forward, because obviously whatever we've been doing up till now is bullshit. Okay. If you've been here for like almost 3 hours now for like the reading and then for the discussion, like, wow. Okay. Phallocracy is a great word, says Gigi. I agree. Yeah, Gigi, I agree. Gigi, when I was talking about like, well, she posited that the reason that gay men can't even do like one of the most basic aspects of male supremacy and like sexually dominate women is because they hate them too much. But Gigi says, like, this is what I think too. Men don't reach peak hating. Men don't reach peak hating and don't want to be around it. Men get aroused by it. Yeah, exactly. Um, oh, Uta's here. Oh, but that was probably like 5 hours ago. Uta says, do I come just in time for the sex talk every time?" Yeah. Benji, when are we gonna eat food? Well, I had a burger before I started. Um, I had breakfast, yeah. Oh, Phil says her endometriosis is messing her up. That sucks. Uta says gay men have always been unfaithful to their partners in her experience. I mean, yeah. I don't. Yeah. I can't think of any gay couples I know who've been together for like a very, very long time. Like most of the longest I had a friend who was gay, who had a brother who was gay, and his brother was married for like 15 years to another dude. But then um well, he got arrested for CP. That's how they got divorced. Uh yeah, actually. I never thought of it. But now that you mentioned that in relation to the essay, I'm sure you mentioned it when I was talking about this like the ultimate phallic access. Like that monogamy is counter to that, isn't it? Right? For straight men. Um, and she kind of briefly mentions that because she mentions the opposite of like the utopian situation for gay men is to have 100% phallic access all the time. And she mentions that the inverse for lesbians is to like be in like equal monogamous relationships. Because like remember Exlancic talked about like insemination opportunities? Well, like if that's like why men are like that about sex, then it would make sense that if a male was being faithful to male supremacy, he would be against monogamy because it reduces insemination opportunities, right? Sabrina says, I get nervous around women who have a pathological hatred of men because it makes me think they aren't actually lesbians and that they have to spend all of their time talking about men, which is boring. Okay, I would say the opposite. I think a lot of straight women cannot see how fucking horribly men treat them because they're in the situation that they're in. It's like when someone is in an abusive situation and like 10 years later they look back and they're like, holy shit, that was really bad. It's not until 10 years later they can look back and say, oh, that was fucked. I think a lot of straight women, the reason that they're like pandering to the scrotes is because they have to do that to convince themselves everything is okay. They have to trust and respect men because they're so desperate for the men to trust and respect them, right? And I think that lesbians, like this like hatred of men, aka being able to like actually look at them and be like, this is materially the literal situation, like this is what you're actually fucking doing, even no matter how you contextualize it or how you define it, right? I think being able to do that, it's like because we're from the outside, we can see something that they can't see from the inside, and that it's actually and because like another part of it why straight women are like won't say the stuff that we say is like I even have friends who are like radical feminists to some extent who are straight who are married and they wouldn't say the stuff I say. Why? Because if they actually start saying that and actually start thinking that, how are they supposed to make their heterosexual relationships work? And it's also like a threat to them if they actually say and think this stuff when they're around men. um it can become like a potentially dangerous situation, right? So I think like being a lesbian gives you the freedom to actually criticize men in a way that straight women are incapable of. Okay. Matt Adams says, plus there's a difference between love for women as opposed to just hatred of men. Yes, yes, yes. I totally agree. Um, I agree, Sabrina, that men are attention leeches, but I don't think like ignoring it's like closing your eyes to a problem doesn't make it go away. That's what the fucking TRAs do. They're like, we'll just relabel sex trafficking as sex work. There, the problem is solved. Like ignoring it obviously didn't do anything about it. So I get what you mean, but like as a radical feminist, like I'm not gonna fucking ignore men treating women like shit. Oh, XX, you also had a purple mohawk? VF, don't you have a mohawk right now? What color is it though? Yogi says, I do think most women are victims of the cult, though. It's the men that push it, I think. It's the men that push it that I hate. I think you're referencing trans stuff, but also like in society at large, like you guys are kind of discussing like a few of you mentioning like women and how they're part of the problem and it shouldn't all be focused on men. And I'm like, but a cult, the looking at it in the cult context, right? Like if we view enculturation and socialization as brainwashing, which a lot of feminists do, then the cult analogy and like what is a cult is a high control group. Well, men have a lot of control over women, so it's like a perfect analogy. And it's also the perfect analogy because most people who are in cults, unless you are in like the top 1% or the bottom 1%, you are simultaneously a victim and a perpetrator. You are simultaneously like recruiting people, making the people who are in it making their lives worse, this kind of shit, right? While you are being financially exploited and brainwashed and everything. Like you're usually most cult members are in both positions at the same time. There's very few people in the high positions who are not victimized at all, who it's like 100% positive, right, for them, their experience. And then like if you're new, you're like 100% victimized at the beginning. But um I think it's kind of the perfect analogy that it's not like a black and white who's bad and who's good when it comes to women in patriarchy, I think. Anyway, but Sabrina, it's not toxic hatred to be like 99% of rapes are committed by men. Most women experience rape. This is a bad thing. The men are the problem. That's not like some kind of toxic worldview. It's like literally the facts of the situation. I actually think if you can look at that and not be angry about it, like you're actually in denial of what the fuck is going on to a huge extent. Like if you can actually think about like women in refugee camps like willing to be raped so that their kids can get out and then you're like, "Oh yeah, men are fine." Like how? You must actually either be dehumanizing the women who are experiencing these things or you're sympathizing with the men for doing these things because you believe their bullshit propaganda about why they need to or they're supposed to or whatever the fuck. Like you're either in one of those situations if you really are like actually okay with everything and you think that the women who call this out are some kind of meanies or something. Um Suno Lily says, "Oh my god, it's 4:30. Fuck. Okay, I need to end this soon." Okay, because I have to be at work at 5:30. Okay. What absolutely baffles me, just like this morning, like it's kind of crazy work shift. What absolutely baffles me is when people call misandrists pick-me's. Like, who the fuck is going to pick a woman who hates the group that is constantly kissed in the ass by everyone? Yes, very, very true. Like, you're only a pick me if you hang out among rad femmes 100% of the time, maybe. The live chat in the video is very out of sync. I scrolled up to where I stopped looking at the live chat, which was like hours ago. Yeah, like what I say that most people would categorize as like man hating, I actually view as just like understanding that my sisters are owed dignity and very on a very justified level not being okay with the fact that they're constantly disrespected and dehumanized and all this crap by like 49% of the population. Like, and like if you view me empathizing with women as hatred of man, that's a you problem, man. You're the one who lacks empathy for women, in my opinion. Um oh hey Grey Witch. Um yeah, like I have not faced physical sexual violence from men, but I experienced a lot of it online as a kid. Like, I don't need to have firsthand experience of, like, everything that men do to women to understand, like, it's not okay and to care about the women who are experiencing that stuff. Tossstone says, "So many women are neurotic about facial hair and are uncomfortable with it. My sisters hate that I don't shave." Yeah, I have, like you can't really see, but I have, like, a little bit of a mustache, and I also, like I have PCOS, and so I have, like oh, I have, like, chin hairs. My ex used to call them goat hairs. I have, like, chin hair. Like, I have, like, hair, but I don't shave them. Sometimes I will, like, trim them so they're a uniform length. That's it. Um, oh, interesting, Sabrina. Sabrina says, "I think I'm different from most lesbians because all my worst abusers were women, and men generally made my life better, and I got along with them more." Yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay. But yeah, you can't but no, but she's not trying to be like a radical feminist. She's not interested in having a class analysis. So, there's no reason to explain to her like the difference between class analysis and anecdotes, personal experience. Um, hmm. My god, Suno says she has a visible mustache. That is based. I agree, Suno. Yeah, like when it comes to domestic violence situations, actually my mom did like 95% of the damage. Like my dad did something, but it was really my mom who was part of the problem. And like um yeah, a lot of my experience of this kind of stuff is actually the inverse of like the statistical norm, but that doesn't mean I can't understand, you know, the likelihood of things. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Matt Adam. Like, Matt Adam says, "I don't necessarily rely on my direct experience of who in particular hurt me. I try to look at the bigger picture and who is getting hurt in what ways and how we stop it." Yeah, that's what the man hating is. Like the people who like when women are like, "You're obsessed with hating men." I'm like, "Actually, I'm obsessed with looking at the problem and trying to solve the fucking problem." And like, you just don't want me to care? You want me to stop caring? If you want me to stop caring, then you must either be okay with it or like, you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make any it's really bizarre to me. Okay. Oh, that's something else. Well, the fact that VF mentioning like rape and fear of pregnancy. That I was actually surprised she didn't bring it up. Like when she was talking about the sexual access thing and how lesbians are completely different from like gay men in their perspective on that. She didn't bring up pregnancy at all. Um, because if power is choice, once you become pregnant or have a baby as a woman, your choices are very limited, right? Um, yeah, so I was surprised she didn't bring that up. And also when she talked about there was one paragraph where she mentioned that gay men are fathers and like how they politically try to use this like because they've been married to women and had babies. Um, but she also didn't mention in that aspect like the I don't know, like the resource distribution and whatever in that situation. Anyway, whatever. I don't know. Uh, I I just kind of thought that pregnancy is relevant to separatist discussions, right? Because what was she like the four-way the institutions that men use to control women are like marriage, motherhood, and heterosexuality. Anyway, okay. Split Second says male violence committed against women is more brutal than the violence women do against men. There's a very clear difference. Oh yeah, for sure. Um, exactly, Mad Adam. Mad Adam says men benefiting from it are not blameless if they do nothing to stop it and passively accept the benefits. Exactly. Um, like that's why it's kind of like incomprehensible to me. I really have to go. Okay. In 4 minutes, I'm 100% ending this chat. Okay. But it's kind of incomprehensible to me um, when people are like, um, like some men are bad, but like most men are good. And I'm like, what is the bar for being a good man? Because this specific man hasn't gone out and raped a woman, he's a good man. That's it. All you have to do is not attack someone to be a good man. Like most men, like for me, the bar for being a good man is like I think maybe I've met one man in my lifetime which fulfills most of the criteria. But it is like really, really high. Like really high. Like every single time a woman tells you that she's scared of a man, has an intuition about a guy, your immediate response should never be like, I completely disagree with this, Sabrina. I don't know what that's coming from at all. Um anyway, what the fuck, VF? That's so scary. I also know I'm a woman. Thanks, Aqua. I also know a woman who you actually know who she is, but I don't want to name her. She posted about it on Facebook, so if you're Facebook friends with her, you'll know. But she has a stalker. I assume he's probably still wants to stalk her, but he's in prison or custody or whatever. So, and he went to her hometown. She wasn't there, and he had a gun, and he like went to her house. She wasn't there. He went and shot up. I think he killed two women. Like he found two random women on the street to kill because she wasn't there to kill her. And she was like, "If I had been in my hometown, if I had been in that house, I would be dead right now." She's like, "The only reason I'm not dead is because I wasn't there, and the reason those women are dead is because I wasn't there." Anyway, um, okay. Jesus fuck VF. That is horrifying. But like, okay, just to quickly finish up on like the standards for what is a good man, be they gay or straight, should be like um every single time a guy is like my crazy ex, you're not okay with that. Every single time a guy says the word bitch, you're not okay with that. Every single time a guy mentions porn in a joking way, you're not okay with that. Like, every single fucking time. Every single fucking time, at all times. Like, without exception. Either you're on the side of women, or you're willing to keep your mouth shut and fuck women over and allow men to fuck women over because you want experience privilege. There's no in between. Either you are supporting the paradigm that you inherently are a part of, or you're not. You can't just sit on the fence as a male in patriarchy and not be a part of the problem. Anyway. Oh my god. Your grandpa's deceased wife had a boyfriend. Wait, I don't understand your connection to this person. It's very confusing. But someone in your family basically was killed because their boyfriend, a woman, was killed because their boyfriend poured acid in a bathtub while she was in the bath. Okay, it's 4:50. I'm gonna go. It's okay. I have 40 minutes to get there. It's like 2 kilometers away. It's fine. Okay. Thank you very much for tuning in. I don't think I have time to stream tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I don't. But Friday for sure. Friday afternoon, we're gonna read the last essay, probably at 2:30, and then we can start the next book. Okay. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the chat and the essay and things. Okay. See you guys on Friday. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.